To me, the first team that comes to mind is Dallas. They have a top five talent in Luca, a new coaching staff led by Jason Kidd. I want to know how you guys feel about Dallas and how far are they from winning the title? Is this something that can happen next season? Or are they one player away? Do they need to blow up and rebuild? How do you guys feel? Uh, Chad, let's start with you.
Very far. If you take Luca off that team, that might be the worst team in the league.
Mm.
It reminds me, I don't know, of the Knicks back in the day, I guess. They just have Porzingis and what else? Hardaway, who else? It's I mean, it feels like Luca has to do everything. I think they're probably one star player in a way and probably at least like two other role players. It's not Luca's fault at all. Like I said, he's a do everything type of player. He's probably top 5 in the league, MVP candidate. It's just, I don't know, Donnie Nelson, whoever the GM was, just hasn't done a great job of building around him. I think that Porzingis trade is kind of a bust right now. I don't think they really drafted too well over the years. It just seems like a one-man show. And without Luka, this is a team that maybe be lucky to win 20 games. So I think they're about three players away, one star player and two key role players from being, contenders.
I respect that. Greg, how you feel about Dallas?
Well, I think in Dallas's case, I think the old adage, sometimes you need to take a step backwards to take two forwards. I think it's apparent at this point. And Porzingis, if you've been following in the media, he hasn't stopped talking to outlets in Europe, all over the place, how he's complaining he was underutilized in pick and rolls. He wasn't even involved. So I think the Porzingis Doncic combo is not working out as planned, and I don't get the feeling that it's going to. I think they may be beyond repair with that. And also Porzingis, again, when the Knicks traded him, the concern was, yes, Dallas obviously got the best player, but he never stays healthy fully either. I don't envision that. So another little sidebar to that, who actually, like, if you followed them this year, gave them huge minutes, is Jalen Brunson might leave. Jalen Brunson contract is up. And like he supplied a lot of secondary offense, either when Luka was hurt or basically playing as a 2. So if they don't bring Brunson back, which isn't a guarantee, I think they're going to have to. I think they're going to have to. I don't want to say blow it up. Obviously, Luka's the star to build around. He's the cornerstone, no doubt about it. But I think they're going to need a major shakeup.
As far as Porzingis goes, not just from a Dallas perspective, but from an overall perspective, is it just time to give up for the league, just to give up on him in general? Because you would think if it was going to work out anywhere, it would be in Dallas. You think he'd be the perfect complement to play with Luka. Is just like you're saying, he's distracted, he's talking to the media. Is just time for not only the Dallas just to cut ties and let him go, but just the league in general?
Well, I don't think, I think the days of a max contract for him are over. I think Porzingis, if you put him in the right role as almost a third option or in a different role, he's definitely still, he's super talented and but I would not bank on him being, again, your second max superstar. So I think if I'm any team in the league, there's no way I would give him that. But I definitely think if he, and Kristaps has been immature. He was leaking stuff to the media in New York. He needs to grow up as well. So, I think if in a different situation, where he goes to a more veteran leader, Luka's obviously a great, young leader, but he's young as well. I think in the right position, he can be a valuable player, but definitely not he's not someone I would even consider maxing ever again.
No, like I said, I don't think I agree with Greg. He's not out the league. He's not like he's a troublemaker like that. He's got plenty of talent. I don't think he's a star player anymore. I don't think he's all-star caliber either. He's probably like the third or fourth option you will want on the team. His maturity, as far as what Greg was saying, leaking stuff to the media, just always seems to be in the media for some reason or not. I think if you keep him as number 2, your team's going to be terrible, or even a 1. You're going to be like the worst team in the league. He just doesn't have it. He's always injured. I think his best days are kind of behind him, even though he's not terribly old. It just maybe seems, father time and injuries that's caught up to him. And just his maturity maybe will keep him out the league, will get him out the league earlier than anticipated. Maybe when the time he's like 32, 33, people get tired of him. He has that Terrell Owens factor, and people just get, you need to go because you're just causing too much drama around here.
Four years max anywhere he goes, and then you're out.
That's crazy.
To tying back to earlier conversations we had regarding a potential, like, if Damian Lillard and Ben Simmons wound up being in a blockbuster for each other, even if that didn't happen, what are the forecasts next year for the Trailblazers and the Sixers? Are they both legit title contenders? Do they still have work to do? Is one in better shape than the other? Are neither one of them in good shape? What's going on with Portland and Philly?
I believe this is Portland's last chance. I think I said this in an early episode, but I think you give it one more year of what Dame in Portland. Try to maybe get a veteran free agent or two that could help out, particularly on the defensive end, and maybe a third type of scorer other than like a Melo or somebody. And you try to roll with it and just try to, maybe at least make like the Western Conference Finals. If that doesn't happen, I think you blow it up. Chauncey Billups, you got to see how well he coaches. He's a rookie head coach. But I think they have some good pieces. I don't know if they just don't gel together well or they were in the wrong system, but they got too many good players and it's just not working. And I think if it doesn't work, they're not, one of the top, couple teams in the West. You got to try to blow it up and start from scratch. Nobody's going to blame you because Portland's been, a viable team, for the past, probably 6 or 7 years. But they're not great, but they're not terrible. And that's the worst place you kind of want to be in the NBA, is right in kind of like that good category. You got to be great or you got to be terrible.
I agree. The treadmill team right now.
I completely agree with that too. I think for both of these teams, Philly and Portland, I think status quo only means you're regressing. I don't think either one of them is a bad team. I think they're both obviously legit playoff teams as constituted, but I think everyone else would be gaining ground and they would be losing it. So, when they talk about in Lillard, the whole big deal is, does he stay or not? I think personally, the Lillard to Philly for Ben Simmons, if they can make that work, I think that's, the framework for, because I don't think, just what Chad said, when you're stuck in that plateau, it's like when teams play for the 7 and 8 seed every year, they're the 7 or 8 seed for 10 years. I totally agree with that. I think they're both at a point where they need a significant change to get over the hump. They will both stay relevant, but I don't think as constituted either one of them will come close to winning a title.
Part of me feels like Portland is cursed. Every year, like, it seems like they have significant injury to players that would make a difference. This is even from like Brandon Roy down, you know what I'm saying? So
that poor man.
If they could stay, that poor man. If they could stay healthy, I really feel like they can make noise. But if history holds true, who's to say that Nurkic won't get hurt again, or Zach Collins, who hasn't played in 2 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just things like this keep constantly happening. And they do have the pieces there to make a title run, but the way I see it, I don't know. I don't know if Dame is if he starts the season there, I don't think he'll be there by the trade deadline.
Just one other thing too with that is that, if you saw TNT this year, Barkley, but he was actually right on this. I mean, they were terrible defensively, terrible. So Lillard, was carrying them on his back some games, and my point is how much he can't go much higher than the level he's at, in my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's not like you can see, he's phenomenal as is. So, if they have to improve around him, you can't give up the amount of points they did. You can't outscore teams giving up 120 a game. So for me, I think there are issues there.
No, for sure. And they did try to bring in players like Derek Jones Jr. and Robert Covington, people that are like two-way players. I mean, Derek Jones got bumped out of the rotation later in the year, and that it was kind of weird, but because they brought him there to play defense, and I know he has like limitations on the offensive end, but they definitely need like maybe they can move CJ and get like a legit two-way player that can help Dame and a player with size as well, because CJ is about the same height as Dame, maybe
I
an inch
totally
taller.
agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree. If they keep Lillard, I think you just hit on it exactly. They need to move CJ for a different piece. I totally agree.
Another team that I want to mention that may be close to a title is someone that, as a team that already has won titles in this league, is the Golden State Warriors. They're looking to get Klay Thompson back. Steph and Draymond, they're still there. They have Wiseman. This team is very interesting. They also have a high draft pick this year as well. So, how do you feel about Golden State and their ceiling? Are they going to be right back in title contention this year? Do they need a year for Klay to get right? Are they going to move Klay? Like it's a lot of variables there. Are they going to move the pick that they have? Since I went to Shad for my first question, Greg, I'm gonna ask you.
I think they're the most fascinating team in the landscape in the offseason. So they actually have two picks. They have the 7 and the 14. So the question is for them, are they going to use these picks? Are there's talk that they may package those picks with Wiseman to land a superstar. You know, I have no idea the rumors about this, but just like a Ben Simmons or, you know, I think they're fascinating because they can go in so many different directions right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the draft for them, that core will be there, but we don't even know if Wiseman will be there. They may keep the picks. So I think they're going to add enough one way or the other that I think Vegas, we were just talking about it. They have them listed as a top 5 favorite already to win the title. And I'm buying it because they just have so many options here. So one way or the other, they're adding a lot of depth or they're packaging something for a superstar. So I'm all in on Golden State. I think they're going to be fascinating next year.
I think if Golden State stays put with these draft picks and they keep them, I think their title window is done. I think they are now a 6, 7, 8 seed. Like I said, Father Time is undefeated. Steph Curry's 33, 34. Klay hasn't played in a couple of years. Draymond Green is looking old. It seems like they just don't have that team of what they had during their dynasty. And there's no shame in that. I mean, everybody has a window. And I think their window has closed unless they can somehow get like a superstar with these draft picks and that James Wiseman, second-year player. I think they're a mediocre team now. I think, they might win, 48 games or so, but they're never going to be a true contender again for a championship.
So, Shad, you're totally out on Draymond Green then. You think that window of him being that gritty, undersized, do it all, get under your skin, piss people off type of player is kind of phased out and done?
It's done. I think everybody from that core team is now in their 30s, and I just don't think you're going to have the energy to do it. You're not going to be the most athletic team. Everybody, like I said, the league gets younger. I mean, every year, you get older. So the Warriors, the window's just done. Everybody from that core team, 6, 7, 8 years ago is now in their 30s or on different teams, and it's just their time has passed.
Greg,
I did see something.
Go ahead, James.
I'm sorry. I did see something interesting online regarding like a trade package for the Warriors and them entering the Dame sweepstakes by moving Klay and also getting Ben Simmons from the 76ers by packaging those picks with Wiseman. I think that would be Darkwing Duck dangerous. If they could make that work somehow.
Yeah, if that happens, I agree though, right back in the picture. But if they're staying packed and they're going to be picking these rookies, I think their time is done. I can even see Steph leaving after next year.
Well, I think Golden State, on the same token, I think Golden State knows this is like almost a Durant situation where, there's a window here. They know that. So I mean, I would guess if the plan would be to package those picks, and even if not that they're looking to get rid of Wiseman, but I think they have the ability to make moves to keep this window open for 3 years. So that's why the draft in the coming months, the offseason for them, is going to shape a lot of them and the league, I think. Like, what do? I don't think they're standing pat.
Speaking of the draft, Greg, flex your college muscles for a second. The most recent mock draft has them taking Moses Moody, swingman from Arkansas, with the 7. And then at 14, Chris Duarte, another swingman out of Oregon. Are either of them good players to fit what Golden State does?
Yeah, I would say Duarte more so. He's more in the defensive end. Moody's more of a scorer per se. So I don't see that one as much. But I just kind of what Chad said as well. I can't see them going. I'm not saying it's impossible, but they're not going to be in this position again. I don't see them making these picks. I see them dealing them because anybody like Duarte, he offers more on the defensive end. He's more well-rounded, but he's not going to be a difference maker in the next year or two. He's a kid in 3-4 years that could develop into an all-star talent. So I'm not buying the draft, the mock drafts for them because I don't think they're keeping these picks at all. I know I wouldn't.
Next team that we're going to look at, the wound up being the second best team in the East by the time the playoffs were done. That is the very much high achieving, overachieving Atlanta Hawks. Chad, take it first. What's your forecast on the Hawks? Do they have enough around Trey and putting Nate McMillan installed as head coach permanently? John Collins stay around. Are the Hawks here to stay for a little bit, or they still got some work to do?
They definitely have some work to do. This might have been like the most overachieving team I've seen in years. I don't think many people picked them to get them out of the second round, much less go to the conference finals. They got a solid young core with Trae Young, John Collins, what's his name from Duke that came back?
Cam Reddish.
Cam Reddish, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a player away. I think they kind of need either one of those players to develop into like an all-star caliber player, a Reddish or Collins, or they need to kind of trade or get somebody in free agency. I love that they made Nate McMillan a head coach. If you do a phenomenal job of getting that team to the conference finals, you deserve to get a contract. If there was like a NBA playoffs coach of the year or whatever, coach of the postseason award, he would get it. I think he would get it unanimously. He's did an excellent job with that team to even get them to the playoffs. Because most people were predicting them they wouldn't even make it, and they didn't look like it before he was hired as an interim head coach. I'm kind of torn on the John Collins. I see him being good, but do I see him being like a second option on like a contender type of team? I'm not sure about that. That's where I wouldn't give him a max contract. I know there's a team out there who's going to want to give him $30+ million. I don't know if I would do that. That's kind of where I stand pat. I like John Collins, but if I say give him 22, okay, I sign him. But if some team wants to give him 30, 35 or whatever the max deal is for his, I think you got to let him walk. I don't think he's that much of a game changer. I think he's more of like a number 3 to 4 type player on like a great team, unless he develops a little bit more. But he's a good player. I would say he's a borderline all-star. That's all I've got to say about the Hawks.
For me, I think the Hawks, so I'm not going to put them, I think they little over exceeded their obviously their expectations this year, but I still think if I can put it, I think they've entered the upper echelon of the East. So if I looked at the East going forward, I think they've taken a step. So even though they were the 5 seed, obviously our Knicks were the 4, I don't think any of us really thought, the Knicks were better than the Hawks. So I think the Hawks, put them at the lower end of the group with Boston, Philly. I expect Boston to bounce back. Boston, Philly, Miami, Milwaukee. So I think they've taken a step up to where I'd be pretty certain they're almost a definite playoff team, and they have room to grow. So I think the arrow's pointing up, but they still need to make changes. I don't think this is going to be a monumental there in the finals next year either. But I think they have taken a step, in my opinion.
Partner, what you got?
I like the Hawks. The Hawks, they have a lot. They are a pretty stacked team. They have Gallo. Like you said, Cam Reddish was playing really well before he got injured. John Collins, like you said, we don't know what he's going to do in free agency, or if they're going to want to pay him what he's looking for. They got Bogey from the Kings. He played really well for them before he got injured, and I think that was a main reason why they had a hard time with Milwaukee. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Atlanta does. It's hard for me to talk about Atlanta because they bumped our beloved Knicks. And that's kind of who I want to talk about next. What do you guys think is next for the Knicks?
Well, if I'll start with the Knicks, I definitely think the arrow's pointing up, but the arrow could be pointing up, and we don't have as good a season reflected in the wins and loss next year, right? I mean, I think the Knicks getting the 4 seed was, they overshot their target, which is great. They had a great season, but I mean, they're kind of in between too. So when we were talking Lillard earlier, they're a big piece, a big point guard, but the Knicks I don't really think are in a position where we have the assets to get a Lillard. So obviously it feels like we haven't had a point guard, as we were joking earlier about, since Doc Rivers. They need to shore that up. I mean, Derrick Rose, it sounds like he wants to come back, but they definitely want him back off the bench. They can't count on him playing those minutes. He even wore down during the playoff series. I think Randall, who had a phenomenal year, is a very good player. I wouldn't say he's a 1A option going forward. So I think let there be further development. If they need a point guard first and foremost, but I don't want to shake it up to the point we're not a player away from jumping into the upper echelon. So kind of like bide their patience and keep improving. That's my take on them.
Shad, the Nick hater. What do you got?
I'm not a Nick hater, really. I was hating because Chase liked them. There's just for me to kind of rib him. I agree with Greg on this one. The Knicks, they could probably taken a step forward next year. It may not reflect in the wins and loss category. I think they need a couple players. They don't have the assets. I think Julius Randle is probably like a number 2. I think he's kind of reached his ceiling, and I don't think he's dependable as you saw in the postseason. So I do think they need that top flight all-star, somebody could develop into the all-star. I like Quickly. Maybe he'll be an all-star. Maybe he'll take a leap forward. Or maybe somehow they could just get a free agent, kind of like they stole Amari Stoudemire, years back, that could kind of maybe uplift the team that's, looks like they're upcoming and can make some noise. I don't know how they're going to do that. Like Greg was saying, I think just because the Knicks' reputation right now, nobody maybe wants to go there as much as they did back in the day. But they're not terrible. I give the Knicks credit. They outperformed what I thought they would do this year. They got a great coach in Thibodeau. They just need to keep this trajectory up. They can't take any steps backwards to the same old Knicks of years past.
One last thing too that I thought of. So part of why the Knicks were so good last year, and it's a blessing and a curse. So for the first time in ages, they're not bogged down by the salary cap. But on the flip side, a number of players who played valuable roles for the Knicks last year were on 1-year contracts. So There's a lot of – we really don't know what the Knicks roster is going to look like this year. other than Quickly, Barrett, Randall, and those are good pieces, but they literally have over 50% of the team who we have no idea what they're doing. So the draft is crucial to them, and they have to get a point guard.
I agree.
Are there any more dark horses we didn't touch on that you guys want to bring up? Chad first and Greg.
As far as a dark horse, I want to bring up the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've been underachieving since forever. I think they had one playoff season with Jimmy Butler a few years back. Other than that, it seems like they've been like the worst team in the West. But I think this is the year that they get it together. I see them having a great core with Karl Anthony Towns, with Anthony Edwards, and crew. I just think they just needed chemistry, and it seemed like this past year they didn't get that chemistry just because of all the injuries. And I think they creep up in to be like that 6th seed in the West, just because everybody's not talking about them. They're under the radar, and I think they will actually remain healthy, and they will gel, and they will finally, make that leap that everybody's been hoping for. And they've had all these number 1 picks. It's about damn time these number 1 picks start doing something, and this team, gets good.
6 is lofty for them. That's out of the play-in tournament.
It is, but you gotta aim for the stars, and I think they'll do that.
They got to do something because they're capped out and they don't have no picks. So
it seems
it's gonna be rough over there.
Like they're almost cursed. It seems like whatever they do, even when it looks like things are in place, Towns gets hurt, or they appear snake bitten.
Yeah.
Greg,
who's your dark horse?
I have to think New Orleans. New Orleans, in my opinion, they so severely underperformed. And listen, that happens. I mean, I'm still trying to take into account, the COVID effects. It wasn't a normal year. And, they obviously young and need improvement, but I can't think a core, of Zion, of, Ingram, even Bledsoe. And then you have a top 10 pick coming. I'd have to think, I have to think that talent is too much to not improve. They obviously took a step backwards last year. And I think like anything they'll learn. Lonzo Ball is a big question, whether he comes back or not. But even he was, his shooting was much improved last year. If I'm them, I try to keep them if possible. But I'd have to think those young kids, especially Ingram and Zion, learning to play together and function off each other. I'd have to take them as a team, in my opinion, that would be on the lookout for most improved next year. I think they'd have to be a factor. I don't think a title, but I think I'd be shocked if they're not a playoff team again. That's just me, but too much talent.
Partner, anything you want to push them on New Orleans?
No, I like New Orleans. I like Zion had a hell of a year this season. And I think he's only going to continue to get better. But I do want to see him and Brandon Ingram play better together with one another. They do need to keep Lonzo because he's a very good playmaker and defender, and I think that's really much all they need at the helm of the offense. They just need time to gel and grow, and I think they'll be just fine.
And that just something you touched on too. They did give up way too many points last year, so it wouldn't help them losing a solid perimeter defender. It would not. I think if I'm right, they gave up. They had like the highest 3-point percentage against in the entire league. If not the worst, they were right at the bottom 3.
That's crazy.
Again, so talented, right? I mean, it's hard to see them being this bad again, just off pure talent.
Right. I have a dark horse team. I like the Memphis Grizzlies. They're like one of my favorite young teams. Ja Morant, I think he's going to continue to get better. They have a lot of talent over there. Brandon Clark was a scratch this season. He played really good the previous season, but I think they were trying to do something different this year. But I would like to see him get more minutes. And he just tweeted after Giannis got his ring the other night. He said he had to get him one of those, and I think he's gonna really be hell bent and focused on really becoming that next level elite point guard that they need to reach that plateau.
When you buying your BI jersey?
Me?
Yeah.
BI? I don't know. It might be I might have flipped the script. I might get a JT jersey now.
You know what, just on your point with Memphis, I really want to see. So Jaren Jackson, who's had huge injury problems, like I think he's got big time potential. So I'd love to see what they're like if he's able to be healthy with them, because they need him. He could be a big time difference maker. So I'd like to see him with Morant in that squad. I think you could see that's a good call on your half. I could see them taking a big jump as well.
Yeah, I like Memphis a lot.
Chad, we talked a little bit off air about Toronto. Do you like them? They're going back over the border next year. They'll be back in their home building. They got a top 5 pick. They got a lot of maybe chaos to settle down, but other than that, do you think Toronto can bounce back from a championship of old?
I think Toronto needs to blow up that team. I think Pascal Siakam is very overrated. I think you could get some draft picks or some type of assets for him, but to me, he's clearly not number one. He may not even be a number 2. I think he's probably one of those under the radar guys, 3, 4 that will get you points when nobody's putting their attention on him. I think Kyle Lowry, his best days are behind him. A lot of teams seem to want him, so I would trade him for some picks. Fred VanVleet, he's a good player, but I think he's more of a role player. He's not a superstar or star player that's really going to make a huge difference as one of your top tier players. I just think their championship window is definitely gone. They would be, bottom of the, playoffs, playing game type of team if they did keep this core together. I like Nick Nurse as a coach. I think he could rebuild a team if you get him young players, but I would blow up this team and start from scratch.
Greg, you in agreement, or you want to counter this?
Well, I think a little of both. So I can't dismiss number one, and it really, to me, it was a factor. The COVID season, playing the whole year in Tampa, no home court advantage. It seemed like last year everything went wrong for them. That's not an easy situation being in the NBA. It's definitely not. I think this can be a rebuild on the fly almost. So I do not think what Chad touched on, trading Kyle Lowry. I think someone will definitely overpay for Kyle Lowry. I still, and I don't mean to say he's a poor player. He's definitely on the back end himself. He can be a difference maker on a team that's close to a championship. So I think if you deal Lowry, and bring back significant pieces, some young draft picks, or I think they can deal Lowry and kind of do both at the same time, because I don't think they're horrible. I think VanVleet and Siakam, I think they can be a decent core to build around. And yeah, they may need a new number one, like a Kawhi somewhere along the line, but I don't think they're wretched either. So I think some creative, honestly, if I go back to the title year, I think people were saying that, and I might have been one of them as well, that said, oh, they should blow that team up then. And then they brought in Kawhi, right? So yeah. I think on the same token, I don't think they're that far away from a similar type occurrence if they do things the right way. The GM has been a proven stud in the business. He's been sought after everyone. So I'm going to give them some of a pass and say let's give them the offseason and this year to see where this goes. I don't think it's done yet. Needs to be changed, but not done yet.